all them bright lights.
That's all right.
All right, ready when you are, right? Madam Chair?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the press and honored guests, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for coming to this press conference this morning. Not to throw any shade, but to express our feelings and our opinions about diversity, equity, and inclusion, not DEI, that we know is great for our communities. Today we gather to address a fundamental principle that lies at the heart of our society: diversity, equity, and inclusion. These aren't just buzzwords. They are the foundation of a thriving, just, and innovative community. Diversity is our strength. It encompasses differences of backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences that each of us bring to the table. It is the fabric of our society that fuels creativity and drives progress. When we embrace diversity, we unlock the potential for groundbreaking solutions to the challenges we face. However, diversity alone is not enough. Equity ensures that everyone, regardless of their race, their ethnicity, their religion, nationality, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or any other protective characteristic, that it has fair access to opportunities and resources. It is about dismantling the barriers that have historically marginalized certain groups or treated them as insignificant. We must actively work to create systems that not only recognize but celebrate all differences. Inclusion is the vital thread that weaves diversity and equity together. Let me say that again. Inclusion is the vital thread that weaves diversity and equity together. It is about creating an environment where every voice is heard, valued, and respected. Inclusion transforms our workplaces, our schools, and communities into spaces where everyone feels a sense of belonging, a place where we can thrive together. Moving forward, let us commit to positive and impactful change. Let us educate ourselves and others, challenge the basis and challenge the biases. Advocate for policies that promote equality and access. Each of us have a role to play in fostering a culture of inclusion. It starts with us, listening, learning, and leading by example. And before I turn it over to the student, as I was putting this together last night, it made me think about two important bills that impact a segment of people that is impacted by the decisions or the vote that we may be taking today. The hate crime bill and Medicaid expansion. I said the hate crime bill and Medicaid expansion. Now I will turn it over to our student.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Donahue, and I'm a senior at the University of South Carolina studying political science and English. I do not want to be here today. I do not want to feel forced to defend the basic tenets of my education instead of receiving an education. I do not want to feel that I must argue what you surely already know. Yet here we are. On March 19th, Representative Alexander asked the H3927 committee, "What is the opposite of diversity?" As Representative Gillum did not deign to answer, I dared to give my perspective. The opposite of diversity is ignorance. History will not be undone if ignored. Other cultures do not cease to exist when shut out of the room, and other perspectives do not disappear when unheard. When I was preparing to talk today, I started by making a list of classes and clubs that I've taken that would be impacted by this bill. I won't list them all for fear of handing the Republicans a hit list. However, I do want to talk about my favorite class that I've ever taken, United States Racial and Ethnic Politics, which has already been censored by this body. This class opened my mind to what race is, how it impacted me, and how it impacts others. The Republican representatives want to paint this class as indoctrination. I am here to tell you it was the exact opposite. Much of the class was discussion-based, with the professor giving us data and challenging us to talk to each other and discuss what it meant. Every class, I talked to other students, only half of whom shared my perspective, and all of whose perspectives shaped me into a more understanding, kind human being. They also strengthened my convictions. I bring this up to make one key point. I took this class alongside conservative students. That means that conservative students chose to take the class. They chose to take this class because they too find value in diversity. H3927 will not just limit those of us who look differently than you or think differently than you. It will also suppress Republican voters, Republican educations, and future Republican leaders. Just as I learned from theirs ideas, they learned from mine. Students from both sides of the aisle want these educational opportunities. To stifle them because of cowardness is pathetic and harmful for every demographic. I cannot oppose this bill or emphasize its harmful impact on the future of education enough. I hope that students in the future will be able to receive an honest and inclusive education just as I have. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Susie Long. I am Distinguished Professor Emerita from the College of Education at the University of South Carolina. And I come today to join the voices here and those that were overwhelmingly expressed in the hearing on March 4th in opposition to the Anti-Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion House Bill 3927. Of course, diversity, equity, and inclusion are necessary to ensure that our institutions of education are strong and fair. I have watched as over the years the demographics of our state universities, students and faculty, continue to be dominantly white. I watch as white faculty, including myself, are given the benefit of the doubt, while black faculty are held to different expectations and scrutiny. I have watched as black students are shut out of social media groups by their white peers, called on less frequently in class, treated unfairly in internships, as students with disabilities are unfairly treated through a lack of accommodations and limited faculty training to understand those needs, as multilingual students and faculty are treated with disdain and disrespect. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Where will the oversight be for these injustices when diversity, equity, and inclusion training is no longer mandatory for staff, faculty, and students? A major argument given by House members for this bill is that all decisions should be solely merit-based. However, the playing field is not level, and determiners of merit do not make clear that some students have the advantages of a legacy and come from generations of expertise in negotiating educational systems. Diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts help to ensure that all of us get a fair shake. In local high schools, the predominance of students counseled into AP and SAT prep courses are overwhelmingly white and middle and upper class. In colleges of education across South Carolina, the demographics of teaching fellows, which offer scholarships to high-performing high school students, are predominantly white, and this continues across disciplines. In addition, the opportunities for black and brown students to excel academically are greatly impacted by the curriculum used to teach them, which is also threatened by this bill. As a teacher-educator, I know that students learn more effectively when they see themselves in the books they read, the disciplines they study, and the teachers and professors who teach them. For white students, this is the norm. Our professoriate and K-12 teaching force is overwhelmingly white. Curricula, textbooks, and classroom book collections are dominated by white authors, scientists, mathematicians, explorers, and historians. For students of color, their normalization in K-12 and higher education curriculum is not the norm. And for LGBTQ students and families, the absence of books and curricula that affirm that they are seen and heard in more cases than you may realize, is a life and death issue. Diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts ask us to examine those spaces and make loving, caring, inclusive changes where necessary. Brought on by a paranoia among those who would worry that any focus on Black, brown, Indigenous, or LGBTQ histories, communities, and opportunities threatens white positions in society. Statements are promulgated to communicate that DEI means taking down whiteness or making white people feel guilty, or turning children gay, lesbian, or trans. However, we know better. Diversity, equity, and inclusion does not threaten whiteness. Far from it. The work enriches who we can be as colleagues, bosses, employees, educators, neighbors, and friends. Over and over again, I've sat in House committee hearings and listened to white committee members say that they are for diversity and that they value learning whole and truthful histories because it enriches our society and we learn about a difficult and joyous past. They profess to hear their Black colleagues and citizens giving testimony about the importance of diversity issues to ensure a richly diverse and fair America. They say that House Bill 3927 does not preclude those values, but it does. Even anticipation of the bill has already led to teachers taking down bulletin boards that celebrate diversity in K-12 classrooms, censorship of classroom libraries, closing down offices at state universities, terminating teacher preparation projects, eliminating doctoral research, questioning student organizations, disabilities rights efforts, and offices of multicultural education. Finally, this bill sends a direct message to Black, brown, Indigenous, and LGBT students, teachers, and university faculty that they do not matter, and that their rights to learn with faculty and peers who represent them and through curricula that celebrate them does not matter. And it says directly to all of us who are white, you matter more. Our universities and public schools stand for much more than that. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hamilton Grant. I have the honor of representing House District 79, located in Northeast Richland County, and also serve on the House Education and Public Works Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, we're standing today in strong opposition for this House bill, this dangerous and hypocritical bill that seeks to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts across the state of South Carolina and its public institutions. This bill is an attack. It's an attack on fairness, opportunity, and the very values that our state claims to uphold. With all of the reasons that we oppose this bill, let me highlight a few that give out the hypocrisy behind the authors of the bill looking to pass this. The first one is that the bill contradicts South Carolina's very own values and history. South Carolina prides itself on being a welcoming state that fosters economic growth, innovation, and education, yet this bill sends the opposite message. The state actively promotes itself as a business-friendly environment, yet major corporations, including those that invest in this state, have embraced diversity, equity, and inclusion as essential components of success. The bill is also a government overreach that violates conservatives' own principles. Imagine that. Lawmakers advocating for this bill often claim to support small government and individual freedoms, yet this legislation inserts the state into hiring and education policies dictating what institutions can and cannot do. It tells universities how to operate, restricts businesses' ability to shape their workforce, and limits individuals' rights to express their values in the workplace. The bill also has economic consequences, which will hurt South Carolina's workforce and business climate. Major corporations support diversity, equity, and inclusion in their hiring and workplace culture, but passing this bill creates an odd situation for the companies that drive our economy. South Carolina colleges and universities compete nationally for students and faculty, but if we eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, we make our institutions less attractive and risk falling behind academically and economically. This bill is a threat to academic freedom and student success. The bill prohibits universities from considering a candidate support for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but also broadly bans certain educational programs that these universities have. It also talks about the equal protection that already exists on the books. The bill is a solution in search of a problem. State and federal laws already prohibit discrimination. The bill is not about fairness, it's about erasing efforts to ensure historically marginalized groups have access to opportunities. If the goal is truly fairness, why target diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives instead of strengthening enforcement for existing anti-discrimination laws? The bottom line is this, ladies and gentlemen, this bill sends the wrong message about South Carolina. If passed, this legislation would send a very clear signal that South Carolina is not a state that values inclusivity, equal opportunity, or the ability of institutions to make decisions that serve their communities. In fact, this morning, I was just at a prayer breakfast and listened to some of the governor's comments, and he said people don't come to South Carolina for our weather. They don't come to South Carolina for our low taxes that Republicans talked about yesterday. They don't even come to South Carolina for our beautiful beaches. Why people come to South Carolina is because of the people. And it is the diversity of this state that this people make up. The great state of South Carolina is why they come. So why in the world would we put forth legislation that would hinder the beautiful people here in this state? So in closing, we must ask ourselves, what kind of state do we want South Carolina to be? A state that moves forward and competes on a national and global stage? Or do we want South Carolina to be a state that clings to outdated policies that drive away talent and investment? This bill is not just unnecessary, it is harmful. And so we urge our colleagues and lawmakers to reject this legislation and instead focus on policies that truly benefit South Carolina's people and the future. And I believe that we can do the right thing today. Thank you.
Hoorah! Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here, Lonnie Hosey, born and reared in South Carolina, in a little town called Dunbarton, no longer exists, where the Savannah River site is situated. Grew up in Williston, now live in Barnwell for the last 55 years after service. And I tell you what, I was asked to speak because being a veteran. I'm a United States Marine Corps E-5 Buck Sergeant.
Sir.
And I served in the United States Marine in South Vietnam, in the area of Chu Lai, Da Nang, in Quang Nai and other areas in real combat. I wrote something last night that I just had problems with trying to read, because what I'm thinking about, how do we fix this thing? How do we together fix this thing? We have all the information, they have all the information, and you know who I'm talking about. And yet, we only providing something for the news. We need to provide something for our people.
Amen.
Our people need some action from this thing. Our people are tired. South Carolina, someone said just last week, is better than what we see. When I was in Vietnam, fighting in the jungles and warfare there, propaganda was thrown from the planes that flew over from Hanoi, said to us African Americans, go home, nigger. And then it said, oh, you don't have a home to go to. Enough to make you angry. And to come back here and find the same damn thing happening.
Same thing happened.
Come back here. You can't fight wars on two fronts. And then people say, thank you for your service.
Nope.
What is that, words? Does it come from your heart? It's just something that we say. We teach the children to say thank you for your service. But there's a boomerang effect by love. It's got to go and it's got to come back.
That's right.
And our people are not sending it back to us. We send love all the time.
All the time.
We've done it for years. I've been here 26 years. And the same old thing is happening. is even getting worse. We have Democrats who are qualified to do things are not doing it. We're sitting on the back channel. When we had Democrats in control of the administration, they had almost half Republicans on the administration. Go back and look at the history. But when they've come there, they don't do anything like that. And I am so taken aback with this, with veterans who supported this president. He's turning his back on us. We are going to be challenged. I'm standing here, I don't want no sympathy. I'm standing here with a full metal jacket. I have shrapnel in both legs, a deformed right hand from wounds I took in Vietnam. My body is bent over because I carried pounds of stuff on my back up and down in rivers and up on hills and whatnot. And I had a 135-pound body, and I had 95 pounds on my back. And every day, going through that. Now I'm an old man. I'm an old man, and I'm bent over. And nobody cares. Yes, somebody do.
Yes.
You,
We
my
do.
friends, my
We do.
colleagues. But then, as a whole, we don't get the care that we need. So I'm going to say, this is my country, y'all.
Yes, sir.
This is
It
your
is.
country.
It is.
We served it in every capacity we can, and we could for the past years of our lives. I want you to know that it's time now, as I take my seat or leave the podium, to celebrate a victory and say to our colleagues, you've given others a break. Give us a break. We are working with you,
Yep.
not against you.
Yes.
DEI means conclusion. Let's put us all together,
That's right.
giving us an opportunity. Look at the population. You can never overcome you because your numbers are greater than ours. And so what we want to say to you, why waste the time
Waste the time.
finding a people who want to give the service to you in the country? Why waste your time? And I think when I leave this podium, I want you to remember that if this state would go ahead and send DEI back to where it came from and pass a crime bill, we will be doing the right thing in this country. Thank you.
In this season, we're saying that diversity, equity, and inclusion is bad. The irony of it is, those who say that they're for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but Scripture says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speak. So if you're against something, then you would say that you are against it. And what's the irony of this season is that here it is, Resurrection Passover Lent season, and you have everybody celebrating the man that brings everybody together. But here we are talking about dividing people because of our emotions, pride. Pride is the one that goes before the fall. And we know how the fall started with a guy called Lucifer, who had the ability to influence 30% of the people to try to overthrow God. Well, that same kind of craziness is what diversity and equity and inclusion, being against it, is all about. You got a crazy man who is telling people what not to do, and you have people who want to live out the abundance of their heart and say what is right and go along with what is wrong. In this season, do the right thing, because it's always right to do what's right. Thanks.
It's very noticeable that you see everyone in very similar outfits. What's the message you're sending on the floor with a black suit and black ties?
Solidarity and unity.
If I could add to that?
You may elaborate.
Yeah, so if I could add to that, what you see in addition to unity, we are mourning the death of humanity as we know it here in South Carolina. The efforts that this bill is bringing to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion, is worth mourning. It is a sad day here in the state of South Carolina, but we don't grieve as those without hope. And so we have hope here that we can put forth the effort to make our colleagues understand that what they're doing will cause harm to South Carolinians. But because we understand what history teaches us and we can also count, we can also pretty much know that these people will do what they set out to do, even though they say behind closed doors that they are against this bill.
TV, we good? Ready? No more questions? All right, thanks for coming here.
Okay.
Thank you. Good job, everybody.
Good job, old man.
Yeah. Hang it out.
All right.
All right.